Welcome to the Philly Prime podcast. I'm Dave Schratweiser. We're going to talk this week about a horrific incident that happened in Nashville, Tennessee on Monday at the Covenant Christian School. Another school shooting where 3 9-year-old students were killed, 2 school officials and a substitute teacher were gunned down in the school by a former student, Audrey Hale, named by police, 28 years old. Went to the school quite some time ago, returned to the school on Monday, parked her car in the parking lot, shot out the front door, entered the school, and then began shooting. But a quick response by Nashville police, 2 specific officers we'll talk about a little bit later, stopped what could have been an even more tragic event, if there is such a thing, when children are concerned and children are killed like that. Joining me on the podcast today, he's been on before, former Philadelphia police lieutenant and Southwest Detectives, now the sheriff in Volusia County down in Florida. Second term, am I right, Mike?
Yes, sir. Second term, Dave.
Second term, Michael Chitwood Jr. Mike, always appreciate you coming on the show and talking to us about things like this. You're out in the forefront of doing new things to hopefully prevent these kind of things, at least in your county and in Southern Florida. Just your thoughts on this, Mike, when you hear Monday morning that this happened yet again.
You know, Dave, I don't know where to start. All I could think of is, my grandchildren are in Philadelphia, and when I get up there, I walk the little ones to school in the morning, and then go back and pick them up at 3:15. Right. And the first thought that went through my mind was, there is no 3:15 for those families. Yeah. It's not coming ever again. And what do you say and what do you do? Yeah. So that's my first thing is my prayers, and they don't mean anything, but I just think about those families that their 3:15's never coming again.
Yeah, and you see the pictures. The one picture is still haunting me today of the student on the bus or at the classroom window, young boy. You can just see how distraught he is, and the pictures of the kids holding hands leaving the school. Last night there was some video released from across the street showing young children running from the school as this is going down, and it's ongoing at the point this video is taken. It's just mind-boggling. I have 5 grandkids myself. They're in school today, and they have these new gizmos that they can get in touch with me on and let me know they're okay, kind of thing. And I don't want to plug anything, so I won't. But it just, I don't even know what to say about this. There was no school security at the school, I don't believe, at the time. A custodian was killed. The principal of the school was killed, and a substitute teacher was killed, in addition to the 3 9-year-olds. And had it not been for the brave work of the Nashville, Tennessee Police Department, this could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely. I mean, again, she planned this. Obviously, she purchased the weapons. She knew the layout of the school. She knew how to get in. She knew the doors were going to get locked. So in some ways, even if somebody was armed on campus, she has the advantage, the tactical advantage, because she knows what she's going to do. If there's somebody on campus, is going to react to it. And then, the response from Nashville was what we have been preaching about for years and years and years on how to respond. And we never saw it come to fruition with Uvalde, with Parkland. And here we finally saw it, that's the way you respond. I saw people Monday morning quarterback and said, oh my God, they stepped over a wounded kid. Well, yeah. People coming in behind will take care of that. Our number one job is to put down the active threat, and they sure as heck did it.
And I went through the active shooter training a couple of times myself when I was a reporter at Fox 29, once in Atlantic County and once up in the Philadelphia area. And I still remember former Chief Joe Sullivan talking about when this occurs, as hard as it is to do for a police officer when you see people wounded on the ground, as long as you continue to hear gunfire, you must go forward towards the gunfire and stop that gunfire, because it's more victims and more bodies and more people getting shot.
Yeah, every second that you delay, They know they have X number of rounds of ammunition, and they want a high body count. And they know that if you're going to delay and delay and delay, well, they're just going to keep on shooting until either they kill themselves or you kill them. That's that's how these things end up.
Yeah. Your thoughts, the weaponry here. We have some pictures of the guns. I think there's a AR-15 style weapon involved, another assault weapon, semi-automatic, and a handgun that was also recovered at the school. And then a subsequent search of the suspect's home where she lived with her parents turned up 4 more guns. So 7 total weapons. And I believe, according to Chief John Drake down there in Nashville, I believe all of those guns were legally purchased. She's 28 years old. We'll talk about her mental state in a minute, but the argument is out there, and you're hearing it left and right here now about, the ban on assault weapons. I believe the president tried to go down that road right away, then kind of diverted off to school security. And I want to talk about that at length with you because you have some interesting school security tactics set up in Volusia County. But again, the weaponry, and you and I talked this week that you're not going to get all these guns off the street, even if you start tomorrow.
No, but this will never happen. But even if they said that we're not going to manufacture any guns, we're not going to sell any guns.
Right.
There's some estimates have us at over 350 million guns in this country. So people are going to get access to guns. I mean, my God, they could print them off of a 3D printer in today's day and age, and you could buy them on the black market. I mean, you're never going to stop the flow of it. But it goes to what you're going to get to in a minute. Those weapons are designed for one thing and one thing alone, and that's for mass casualties. And she clearly was loaded to go in there and kill as many people as she can. I mean, they're weapons of war. They're weapons of destruction.
Yeah. The mental health issues involving this suspect have also come up. Her parents, I think, have been quoted as saying she had some psychological problems. She was under the care of a therapist. She sent some text messages right before this incident, moments before this incident was going on, to a former basketball teammate, female, back and forth, saying she was going to die that day, and you'll be hearing more about me on the news, telegraphing what she was going to do. To that young lady's credit, she made a couple of phone calls, got sent to a 311 number, and then put on hold for 12 minutes. But unfortunately, the shooting was unfolding literally as that was happening. Quick alerts. I think that part of it here, at least somebody stepped in and did something. I have some other questions about how the parents handled this, but your thoughts on that part of it, the psychological, mental health issues right here.
First, that young lady that called, and I mean, she got put into 311, but thank God, at least she called. She tried to do something to the best of her abilities, as opposed to what we see before, where people don't say anything, tragedy happens, you're like, oh my God, I could have prevented this.
Yeah.
The mental health portion of it, Dave, I think if you really look at all of these shootings, that mental health component is there in every mass shooting, whether it's the synagogue in Pittsburgh, whether it's the church in South Carolina, whether it's the doctor, the white doctor who was killed for white privilege by the black guy who had mental health issues as well, who decided this was going to be a good thing to happen. So that is always the impetus behind these things. I'm seeing it here with what's going on with the threats to the anti-Semitism that's going on down here, and the threats to me. There are these people that are locked into these chat rooms for hours and hours and hours. They're disassociated with society. Right. They have access to firearms, and they see themselves as aggrieved and wanting to be avenging angel.
And John Drake, the chief, said down there they were not aware of this individual beforehand. They were not aware that she was undergoing therapy and that she had been purchasing guns while doing that. Most states, if you check that box, some people don't and lie on the form. But if you're undergoing psychological therapy, things like that, buying guns is not what you're supposed to be doing. And in this case, I got to ask a little bit about the parents. She's 28 years old. She lives at home. The parents knew she was getting therapy. I think they kind of made some comments along the line of they were concerned that she might be trying to get guns. And clearly she had 7 weapons, 4 of which were still at the house when they executed a search warrant. My question would be, I know they say they didn't know that, but how does that happen? I mean, it kind of makes me ask the question, the parents here somewhere, if they have this amount of concern, should have been talking to someone in a law enforcement capacity.
Absolutely. There's no way you get that amount of ammunition. And these weren't like 22s you could hide in your sock. I mean, they're AR style
Yes.
weapons. I mean, I think there's a shotgun in there too as well.
Mm-hmm.
These are long guns. These aren't something you're not going to notice coming in and out of your house.
Yeah.
And the fact that she is your daughter and you know she's got psychological problems, we see it here. We have risk protection orders in the state of Florida.
Right.
And families have the right to intervene first and secure the weapons, and they don't do it. We get there, and then we're the ones that, okay, now we have to go through the process and get a court order. And you say to the family, this incident didn't have to occur. You could have stepped right in and took the firearms away from your loved one who has mental health issues and is threatened suicide or to take people with them.
Yeah, and was threatening suicide that very day with her friend that she sent the text messages to. Chief John Drake has said, and I mentioned it before, that they were not aware of this individual, not on their radar screen. There was not anybody stationed at the school in terms of a security officer, things like that. But we did now get an opportunity to see the body cam video from at least two of the officers involved, and we'll talk about them in particular in a minute. And the surveillance video. Chief Drake was very quick to release that and show the community just what happened here. In some past cases, that has not happened. He decided to put him out there, let people see what happened and how his officers handled it, probably because of what happened in Uvalde. But your thoughts about going out that quickly with the videos, even they're graphic, and there were a lot of warnings by TV anchors before they put them out there, and there were warnings online about watching them. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, first, I think Chief Drake is a premier law enforcement leader in the country. I've had the pleasure of sitting on panels with him.
Okay.
And I tell you, we do it here, Dave. When something happens, good, bad, or indifferent, I get that body camera footage out and security footage out as fast as I can, because not only is it about controlling the narrative, but it's about letting people see the good, the bad, and the ugly and let them make their decision. And I think, to follow up on what you said, the Uvalde incident and all the cloudiness that surrounded that and this investigation that drug on, the chief said, nope, we're going straight for it. We're going to show you exactly what happened, how she entered that school. I mean, obviously she was coming in to take over that school, and to digress a little bit, that's all I think are the thing that keeps us up at night in law enforcement, is who is in their garage plotting to be the next active shooter that's not on our radar, that has access to firearms.
Yeah.
That's the dilemma.
Yeah, and she went so far as to put together, according to Chief Drake, a manifesto, kind of like a journal plan, whatever he said. There were maps, the manifesto. Now, he has decided at this point not to release that. I think that's probably prudent right now. The focus should be on these three young children who are going to be buried this weekend, and the school principal who was brave and left a Zoom meeting and ran out into the hallway into the middle of this. The custodian who tried to stop, I think, at the door and got shot coming in the door kind of situation, and a substitute teacher who probably was just there for the day or for the week filling in. Your thoughts about not releasing that right now and kind of giving us the motive or the why behind this?
Yeah, I think they did it. They put enough information out there to get digested. It needs
I would
to be
agree.
digested, and there'll be another point in time where we'll move forward, and there'll be lots of time to do that. But you're 1,000% right. Yeah. These folks, the adults and the children, there's a story that needs to be told about them, and let the media and the attention focus on them. The janitor, unarmed, going up, he knows he's going to get slaughtered, but he's going to try to do something to protect those children. The teacher, having a daughter as a school teacher, running out there to try to do something, anything to try to buy time. And it's, you can't say enough about what was in their soul that to have such courage to stand there knowing. I mean, could you just imagine hearing all those shots? This wasn't pop, pop, pop. This is opening up on those doors with an AR.
Yeah.
What's coming at you.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been around shooting scenes where ARs were used. That sound on a city street or in a building is sickening to your stomach when you hear it in a confined area or even out on a street with buildings around you. It's a sickening sound because the damage that's being done on the other end of that.
Amen. Absolutely. Absolutely.
The body cam video from the jump at the door, there's someone from the school informing the officer right at the front door what's going on inside, has the key to the door that's locked. And you can hear him saying, I need three. He's trying to form up 3 more guys to go in with him. And there are other guys coming behind, and he's tactically giving them what they're going to do, going through the front door, and then they proceed. Walk me through what you saw in the body cam video and the steps that they took going through, clearing rooms, bathrooms, all the way down the hall while they continued to go towards the shooter. They kind of split up, cleared the rooms, and one group kept moving towards the shooter.
Right, and that's exactly how we train. If you think back to, I think it would have to be Virginia Tech is probably when we first started to look at our response to these active shooters. So we started arming our deputies and officers with long guns. Right. And it was the diamond is how we were going to do it. Wait for 4 or 5. When you got 4 or 5, then you move in. You have a point, sides, and then the back and the rear guard. Then we were like, well, you can't wait for 4 or 5 anymore. Maybe we wait for 3. And we're at a point now where it's 1. The first one there. If you're not going to have a quick response from your backup units, you got to go. We equip you with tourniquets. You have long guns. You have plenty of ammunition. You have to make that moral and ethical decision to go. Yeah. What they did there, obviously, there was a really good response time. You had somebody there telling second floor, front. And plus, they knew that because they were greeted with gunfire, if I'm not mistaken, from the second floor as they were pulling up.
Right.
So having that person tell you the exact location, you know what we got to do. Clearly, they are a well-trained police department. And that's exactly what you do. You move toward the threat, but you also want to make sure you're not going to get ambushed from behind as you're moving forward. And that's what they did. Step by step, clear the room quickly and move on. Yeah. Leave a guard behind and just keep moving. And eventually you're going to get where you got to get. And they got there. I think it was 14 minutes from the 911 call to the time they put her down. That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, we think alike, Mike. 10:13, the call comes in. 10:27, the call comes from one of the 2 officers saying the suspect is down and done.
Absolutely. We sent that video out to every single one of our deputies. We go through training once a year, and it's in classroom, and then we do scenario based, just like that. There's bangs, there's actors who are laying bloodied, screaming for help. Yeah. We do it in the summertime. We pick 3 or 4 schools, and these guys don't know they're going to get trained. They'll get a call to report to this location, and then we'll tell them, hey, it's active shooter training. It might be 4 o'clock in the morning. It might be 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Right. And then we send them in. We videotape everything. We go back and critique it because it is so important. Seconds matter, and you just can't freeze. You just got to go. And the Latin phrase for that is repetitio madre studiorum. Repetition is the mother of learning.
Exactly.
Do it over and over and over again. It becomes ingrained to you and how you're going to react.
And that's when you do it right. And in this particular case, clearly the training paid off. I want to say I've seen 6 articles in the last 2 days from law enforcement experts at every level, federal, state, county, and local. Everybody said the same thing who's seen the body cam video and the surveillance video. This was a textbook.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
takedown by the police.
And like we talked about earlier, a textbook response, quick response. 6 people still lost their lives.
Yeah,
because you can't stop what you don't know is going to happen.
Yeah. Mike, there's been a lot of debate already. We talked about the gun part already this, in the broadcast here. Pushing that aside, we go to school security. Very important. People talking about they want to have an armed person at every school if we can do it. People talking about other issues that they need to deal with mental health. But let's talk about the school security situation. I saw something right after this happened on Instagram. Actually, it was posted by my nephew. And he said there are 133,000 elementary and middle schools in this country. If we took a retired police officer, military veteran, etc., trained, paid them $75,000 a year, gave them benefits, stationed at least one at every one of those schools, the cost would be $9.8 billion. His comment ended with, we just sent another $12 billion to Ukraine. Maybe we should use that $12 billion to protect our schools and the kids who you now see the pictures of at that school event. Your thoughts?
Well, first, your nephew, he's got your good genes, because that is really, really good thinking for him to come up with that.
He's a Schratweiser, yeah.
Absolutely. You could tell. the Sheriff's Association here in Florida were tasked by Governor Scott after Parkland to come up with a policing plan for schools. So each county sheriff, while the superintendent makes the final call,
Right.
we help devise the plan. And what you have here is, in my county, we have 85 schools, 10 of which are high schools, 8 of which are charter schools. So the school district had 3 options. They could form a police department. They can contract with the local PD or with the sheriff's office for SROs, or they can go into what's called the Guardian program. I think this touches on what your nephew's talking about.
Right.
Our guardians are retired military, retired law enforcement for the most part. They make about $48,000 a year. It's a seasonal job. They have medical benefits. There is one gun on every campus in Volusia County, with the exception of the high schools. In the high schools, there's 3. It's either 2 SROs and a guardian or some combination thereof. My job as the county sheriff is to make sure the guardians are trained and that they qualify every year. They have to shoot at a higher percentage than the deputies shoot. So that's my job, is to screen them, recommend hire to the school board, and then obviously we monitor them and make sure that their firearm proficiency is up to snuff. And they actually, as this program has morphed, these guardians have become part of the social fabric of the school.
Okay.
Some of them patrol on bicycles. Some of them have turned into become a coach after hours.
Yeah.
So it really, for us, there's no way I could have hired all those deputies. There's no way. Everybody can't hire cops. But the Guardian program, we have over 90 of them, as compared to maybe, counting my office and all the other municipal police departments, maybe 12 or 14 SROs. But you do have those guardians. So there's a gun. We even contracts that the guardians help us at football games and basketball games and all the other places where you may see a shooting off campus.
And give me your thoughts, since that's been in place. Incidents, I'm assuming, have kind of dried up.
Other than the idiots that call in the bomb threats and I'm bringing a gun to school the next day.
Yes.
I mean, that comes under another initiative, which is Fortify Florida, where when a tip comes in, it goes to the sheriff's office in that jurisdiction, and an investigation begins right away. Whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., there's teams of detectives that cull through all of those social media tips and try to backtrack it to where it's coming from. Yeah. The other thing we have here, and I'm sure they have it in other schools, is every teacher has a system. And again, I don't want to give an advertisement there. If something happens in their classroom, they hit a button that automatically triggers the school in the lockdown, goes into our dispatch center with the exact location where that teacher is, with that panic alarm going off, for lack of a better term, so that responding officers and deputies know it's the 3rd floor science room 303 is where this panic alarm is coming from. Yeah.
Okay. We're at 2:17 in the afternoon. You and I are talking. If something happened right now, what would be the response from the Volusia County Sheriff's Department?
Everything's coming. Everything's going. I don't care what it is. One of the issues we're learning, because we've had a few firecrackers in the school, alert is triggered. Yeah. One of the things that we didn't really factor in was you do have the FBI, you have Florida Department of Law Enforcement, you have Fish and Game, you have all these other folks that are going to hear that, and they're going to proceed in. Right. So while we're responding in the city of Daytona Beach, we already are coordinating who's going to do what, but you have these outside agencies coming in that don't train with us necessarily. That's that's a hurdle we're trying to work through. It's a good problem to have. Oh, yeah. But again, we know what our role is when we get there, that here's what's going to happen. Here's the unification plan. Here's who's going to be the operations coordinator. Here's how we're going to search. The keys were another one we've learned through trial and error. The keys are mismarked on the 2 times we had to do it. So we had to go back and make sure that go bag, when it's dropped, all those keys are labeled so we can get into those classrooms. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the mental health part of this right now. If you could talk to parents who are out there, who have a child, whatever age, this young lady was 28 years old, who has some mental health issues going on, and they're kind of speaking about violence or talking about it or watching a lot of it, that kind of thing. As the sheriff, what would you say to them about coming to talk to you or a local police department or a local police officer? Just come talk to us.
Yes.
Let us know. Yeah.
Yes. And here's the problem. There's a stigma. Yeah. People think it's a stigma.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with my kid. They're just a little depressed. Well, you're not a clinician. That's not your profession. You don't know that your kid may be bipolar or your kid may be extremely depressed or may have an anger issue. You don't know that. It doesn't hurt to ask. We have 2 programs here in Volusia County that we encourage people to do. First one is an iPad program. I have a pilot program going out in our largest city. Any type of mental health, you having a mental health problem, call us. We'll hand you the iPad. We'll connect you with a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, and we drive away. Call us back when you're done. So you don't have to leave your home. You can get in there. I'm feeling suicidal. I feel like I want to kill. Whatever it is, we'll hand it to you. And then the second one is we have mental health folks inside of our communication center. So when a call comes in, they can talk to a licensed practitioner in that area as well. And lastly, every juvenile that we arrest, we have a family reunification center here where all the juveniles are processed. Every one of those kids that comes through has a mental health and a substance abuse screening, so that when we call the parents to come and pick them up, we could let them know, hey, listen, from talking to your kid and seeing this is what he's been arrested for, looking at his school history, we have some resources here to help abate that problem. But again, if the parents practice the ostrich style of parenting, they stick their head in the sand, all that stuff is for naught.
Yeah. I want to talk about the 2 officers, the 2 Nashville, Tennessee police officers, Rex Engelbert and Michael Colazzo, who have been singled out by their chief as being the 2 officers who took the suspect down, who continued towards that suspect as other officers were clearing rooms and they were moving through the school. I believe you can hear them on some of those body cams saying, okay, it's right. It's coming from the right. It's coming from the right. Go right. You can hear them moving towards the gunfire, and the gunfire's loud. You can pick it up on the body cams. I mean, these guys are, and I've heard them called this 50 times already, true heroes. Clearly put every other life ahead of theirs and moved right at the target till they took the target down.
They're right out of central casting, Dave. They epitomize what the best in law enforcement is. And when you train and you train properly, because I also think one of these guys is a Marine, on top of all that, that's what every police officer should emulate to be. God forbid, if you find yourself in that situation, look at how they train. I mean, you look at them, you can tell they're squared away. These guys mean business, and that they're probably leaders in their organization as well. Hey, I'd love to have them join Volusia County Sheriff's Office. I think Chief Drake might not like if I'm making a play for them, but it doesn't snow here, so.
No, and they're young guys. You can see from the pictures. One has 4 years on the force. One had 9. But you could tell, even at a young age, like they were in this particular incident, they were leaders and didn't mind being a leader and didn't mind putting their own lives on the line that day to save probably, as I heard Chief Drake say, many, many more lives.
Yep. We see bad police work all the time, and we call it out. Well, these guys need to be a shout out because they are the best our profession has to offer. And when you look at these guys, that's what we're really about here.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, I see a lot of jousting going on Capitol Hill and from the White House about what to do next here and that kind of thing. If you could sit down in a room with the Democrats, the Republicans, and the president, you have some pretty good model programs right there. I'm sure there are other states and other counties across the country that have equally good programs. Is it time for a summit here to put these ideas on the table and get both sides in the room with the president to agree, whoever the president is now or going forward, and agree on what we got to do here? Because you can't keep saying we're going to do something, and another one happens and another one happens. I think there's 113 school shootings already this year in Philadelphia. Almost 100 students shot this year and like 19 killed. That's one is too many, as they always say.
Listen, when we grew up, what were the 2 safest places you thought as a kid growing up? Were school and church. And now they become slaughterhouses or churches and schools. We're going to argue ad nauseum about the guns. Ban the assault gun, ban guns, do that. And nothing changes. What your nephew says makes an awful lot of sense. Yeah. If you target hard in the schools, if you put a trained professional, because we do know from Chief Drake's press conferences, she went to another school.
Yes.
But it was target hardened. She was going to meet resistance. So where did she go? She went to the place that she knew, where she knew not only she knew the layout, but she knew there wasn't going to be any resistance there, and she could carry out a high body count before she was put down. So I think instead of looking at the gun, let's look at how do we make things tougher in our schools, meaning how you target harden them. I mean, I've never been to the Middle East, but some of my fellow sheriffs have been, and they say the security around the schools and a synagogue and a mosque and a church is unbelievable. Well, rather than make this argument that restricting the sale of ARs is going to stop this problem, it's not going to stop it. What's going to stop it is an armed individual, fully trained, that's committed to that school. That's what's going to stop it.
Yeah. And the good thing is, as you mentioned before, they kind of ingrain themselves in the fabric of that school.
That was a byproduct, Dave. I didn't really, when we trained them, I'm like, these guys are going to go there. When the bell rings, they get there at 7 a.m. When the bell rings 3:15, they're going to leave. And that's not what we're seeing from an overwhelming majority. We see them getting involved in all kind of different things. They have no power of arrest, so they can't arrest anybody. Right. So people will say, oh, yeah, you're putting more people in and you're going to lock them up. And the guy can't do any of that. He's got some mental health training. Yeah. Right. He's got some mental health training, works closely with the principals and the administration, talks with kids. He and she are there. And it's like, this is a great.
Yeah. And I got to say, I mean, you and I know this from being you in law enforcement and me around law enforcement for so many years, that you always hear police talk about getting the help from the community. Well, if an officer is on good terms with the students, teachers, and faculty at a school, they are the eyes and ears. They might hear something. They might hear a kid say in the hallway, hey, Audrey Hale, in this case, was saying the other day she bought a gun, or she's talking about committing suicide. And you can step in or maybe bring it to somebody's attention to get that person mental health help, and or if it's a threatening situation, bring it to your attention or a law enforcement person's attention and start keeping an eye on the situation so it doesn't escalate to the situation we had on Monday.
You bring up a great point, because that's what the kids do. They'll know or hear so-and-so's got a gun in his backpack. They go right to the guardian. Yeah. And the guardian keys right up and said, hey, here's what I got.
Yep.
We get there, we develop a plan. Sometimes it's a BB gun. Sometimes it's a real gun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's communication is the key.
Amen.
Not just to be there to protect, but to communicate with students and the faculty.
Amen.
Yeah. Your thoughts going down the road, Mike? This is something that has to happen now, right? I mean, we can't keep
it has to happen now.
A month from now and another one has happened.
It has to happen now. Your statistics are right on target. 113th shooting, and we're what 3 months into the year, 90 days into the year, and we're this high. They got to get together. You got to get together now. And then you got to work on the risk protection orders is another big thing for us. There's due process there, but when you come across somebody that's got some type of a mental problem or a substance abuse problem and they got access to firearms, you got to get them away, get them the help that they need. They're easy. To me, that's low-lying fruit. Let's work on a plan to get armed professionals into the schools. Work on all the other targeting stuff. Work on the risk protection stuff that is in there that helps ensure mental health and getting firearms away from the people who shouldn't have them. Yeah. And then take a deep breath and attack the other stuff. The low-lying stuff, and your nephew's brilliant for that. Let's do it. Yeah,
makes sense. Mike, appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy person down there in Florida. You got a lot of issues you're taking care of these days, and I greatly appreciate that. Folks who don't know, Mike Chitwood Sr., the former chief of police, superintendent of police in Upper Darby, is also down in Florida. Mike, we want you to give Mike our best.
I certainly will.
Got him, and everybody remembers him. He's a colorful character, just like you. And again, I always appreciate your honesty and straightforwardness and sound thinking when it comes to law enforcement things, and especially issues like this. You and I have talked about this on the show before, and I greatly appreciate your opinion and your thoughts on this.
Hey, Dave, it's always good to come home, even if I'm zooming in.
Well, I greatly appreciate it. Mike, thanks for your time today. Thanks, Andrew. Andrew is Mike's public relations person down there, and he also handles things like that. We greatly appreciate him as well. So, Mike, thanks again, and my best going forward, and I hope we don't have to do this conversation again anytime soon.
I'm with you on that, Dave. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, folks, that's it for Philly Prime for this week. Appreciate the time from Sheriff Mike Chitwood again, And let's all pray that this doesn't happen again and again. Our thoughts, our prayers, and our condolences to the families who lost children and or the adults that were shot and killed in that school. You have our prayers. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time.